I recently revealed on the channel that I had a secret project that I've been working on, which was a Bone Customs bed replacement and an Alucab Modcap camper to go with it. Since getting home from tactical application vehicles for the Alucab install, I've been spending every free moment I have to install the electrical system, lithium battery, additional lighting, and various accessories. My plan is to get this out and use it as soon as possible, but also it will be on display at the TAV booth at the Overland Expo in Flagstaff. Obviously, I have a ton of projects going on, but today we're going to cover chopping up the roof rack and replacing the Trailhunter springs with Dobinsons.
Hey guys, Tyler with Independence Overland, and today I'm diving into even more projects on the Tacoma. Now, I'm gonna have different videos coming out, and I'm releasing these at different times, just basically whatever fits my schedule, because some of these projects are taking multiple weeks, so I'm just releasing them in the order that works best for me. As of the time of you watching this, some of that stuff has released, some of it has not, but there's about to be a bunch of that. So you can dive through the channel and check out those different things. I'll have a whole video on the bed, a whole video on the Alucab. I've already done one on the truck that is out on the channel as of right now. But today what I'm diving into is something I'm pretty confident I can get done this weekend. And this video is gonna be two particular projects that are pretty different from each other. One of the main ones is my roof rack. So I was hoping Sherpa Roof Rack, because they make stubby racks for a lot of trucks. You can get them for your Tacoma, for your Gladiator, stuff like that. They make a chopped rack that fits in front of various campers. Well, for the 4th gen, there's not that many people with these trucks yet, and there's not that many people that have these trucks with a camper. So it hasn't made sense for them to build that system yet. So for me, what I'm doing is I'm gonna take this Toyota roof rack and I'm gonna chop it up a bit. And what I'm gonna do basically is I'm gonna cut it and I'm gonna make a stubby rack out of it. I will be able to utilize a factory Toyota mount, but it's not gonna have the rear mount, so it's not gonna be as strong of a rack. And then the other thing I'm doing this weekend, as you might imagine, this truck has squatted a little bit because I've put a ton of weight on the back. Now, with the Kuat rack and the Alucab setup, I was running airbags, but I still knew that I lost some of my height in the rear. And the reason for that is the airbags I had those before anybody was offering an airbag system, and I don't even know if they are now. I'm sure they are by now. So those were a little bit short for what I needed. There's still a gap in there. So I lost an inch right away with that loadout because, as I mentioned in previous videos, the Trailhunter, being the load carrying Toyota, it doesn't have that good of load carrying. The shocks are really good. They ride very nice, but the springs are just not there in the rear end. Anyway, that's a completely different topic for a different time, but this thing needs new springs. So I had a subscriber reach out to me on Tacoma 4G, and he mentioned that Dobinsons springs, they do fit over the Trailhunter shock. He used some different ones. I'm gonna use some pretty firm ones because I will be putting on, right behind the camera is a C4 bumper, and I'll be putting a come-up winch into that probably next weekend. And then for the rear end, because I have this camper on here, I did get some Dobinsons for the rear of that too, and that is a big spring. This is gonna be a huge upgrade from what I have right now. I know people are gonna ask, so the rear spring I'm using is the C59821V. This is one of their heaviest springs that they sell. The front spring is a C59822, and these are actually listed for the Land Cruiser 300 series, and this is gonna be a pretty heavy spring for this truck. But again, I'm putting a bumper and a winch on the front of this, and a 12,000 pound winch at that. So it's gonna be pretty heavy in the front end. Most of you guys will probably not wanna get a spring this heavy unless you're putting a bunch of stuff on the front. There are springs that are rated for less weight, and you can go onto the Dobinson website. I have no professional relationship with Dobinsons. I paid full price for these. Maybe I can get affiliate links. I'm not even sure at this point, but I've used their springs in the FJ. I've owned 2 or 3 different sets because of different weight ratings and stuff, and they've been awesome. So I just wanted to get these, and to be totally honest, there's a good chance that if these Trailhunter shocks don't hold up over time, that I will do a Dobinson system just because they have rubber bushings, and I really appreciate that at this point. So these springs will convert over to those shocks when the time comes. Dobinsons has more options for coil springs than anybody else I've seen. So this is what I'm gonna use, and I'm gonna dive right into this project. I've got a lot of work today, and a spring as heavy as this rear one is gonna be a huge pain in the ass to deal with.
This camera was having issues focusing for some reason. I just set it up and hit record so I can make some progress on this install. You can see here that my airbags were a long shot from being the right size for this truck. But at the time, there's nothing else available, so they serve their purpose. All right, as you can see, the Dobinson is a much bigger
spring. It's thicker, it's taller. Swapping springs on this thing so much easier, at least compared to my FJ. With the FJ, I don't have as much brake line, so I got to unbolt a bunch of stuff to drop springs in. This is a much bigger spring, and I've done this on the FJ so many times, going back and forth between when I had a trailer, I dropped spring weight. When I put the tent back on, I went back up. I just realized I can lift this truck up enough. It's got enough slack to where I can just throw these things in pretty much. I barely have to compress them. The nature of this truck is just making this a pretty simple process. This is a hell of a lot easier than I expected, and then I don't expect the front end to be very difficult either. So this is going pretty smooth. I'm excited about this.
Now that I've realized how much I can let the axle droop, the rest of this process isn't going to take any time at all. As I mentioned, these front springs should fit right over the top of the Trailhunter shock. It should end up being a very straightforward process.
All right, so I did find that my passenger side shock is leaking oil, and I actually had a subscriber reach out to me several weeks ago telling me that their Trailhunter had 2 blown shocks in the front end. So it's kind of interesting. The predicament I'm in is that I'm replacing these with new springs, and Toyota might give me some grief on that because I'm modifying something. So we'll see what happens. I need to get the suspension on here. I need to get this thing some extra lift in the front. It's about adventure season. I've spent all winter on this thing, or actually it is adventure season. It's warming up fast. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and I'm gonna really hope that my Toyota dealership is cool about it. They've seen the truck before. They know what I've got going on here. We'll see if they honor the warranty on these shocks. So anyway, I'm gonna hope for the best on this. And if not, then I'm gonna swap this out with something else because I can't have that kind of thing going on. All right, so I'm gonna get this new spring installed and move forward with the other side, which I don't think will take very long because it's just a learning curve, just figuring out a new Toyota front end.
The front springs ended up being very easy to replace, and on the second one, it only took me about 30 minutes. Once you get your groove, then you'll be on your way. These springs may or may not be overkill, but I really won't know until I put the front bumper on and just see how it feels. I'm not trying to get a ton more lift out of this, but it would be nice to have factory ride height when it's loaded.
I want to go over the numbers on this thing. I know there's going to be people asking, so I thought that I would just cover some of what I've got going on here. So these Dobinsons springs, the front springs are not really listed for a Tacoma at this point. Those are listed for the Land Cruiser 300 series. I knew that there was another spring that gave a Trailhunter a decent amount of lift without a load. So what I did is I went up to the next one above that, and I talked to Dobinsons. They gave me the part number, so I ordered those springs, and they seem to have worked. But the thing is, with any suspension lift, is it's going to have to settle for a while. So I'm going to give you the numbers, but this will probably change over time. The big thing though is I didn't want a crazy amount of lift on this because the Trailhunter's already come with like a 1.5 or 2 inch in the rear, and then I think like I think it's 2 inches in the rear and then 1.5 in the front. So honestly, that was a good ride height. It makes it easy to get into the truck. It got me everywhere I wanted to go. I didn't really drag that much, so I was happy with that. So I was totally fine with it. But I needed the new springs for the weight, and I think I did still get some lift out of it. Very few of you are going to be able to compare what I have going on with my exact setup. But all in all, like I covered in my other video, this bed, not including the camper, but this bed with the 35s was 110 pounds over what the factory weight was. And we're talking the rear ARB bumper is now gone, the bed rack's gone, the rear seats are gone. I think the rear seats were on when I weighed it the first time too. So if you have an Alucab, this might be a similar comparison.
Okay, so here is how much lift I got out of this spring swap. On the front left, 1 3/4 inches. On the front right, 1 3/4 inches. This will, of course, drop as soon as the bumper and winch go on. For the rear left, 3 inches. And again, this isn't really lifting at 3 inches. This is just getting some back. And on the rear right, 2.5 inches. And on the right side is the fuel tank on these trucks, so that doesn't really surprise me. As you can see in this footage, going over some of these whoops was quite a bouncy ride, so this should correct that.
So as far as the front goes, I'm putting the bumper and winch on next weekend. So we'll see what happens with all of that, and that'll be a completely separate video. And then again, it's gonna be a whole new settling aspect to that. I'm gonna put all that stuff on, and then over the course of like a month driving this thing around, those springs are gonna wear in a little bit. The Trailhunter needs to have stiffer springs from the factory. Toyota needs to change that, that's my opinion. I know that it won't drive as good for the journalists and stuff, but the people who use these trucks will appreciate it so much more. If I know that my situation's a little bit different and this would have had to have been swapped out, but for the guys that are gonna go buy that ARB rack and put the 10 on the back of it, their truck's gonna sag right away. That needs to be, in my opinion, the engineers need to look at that and consider swapping that out with something else, or at least having another option. All right, so anyway, the suspension is done. I feel much better about this. So it's not huge, but this is back up to the height that I think is gonna rock and roll on the trails, at least the types of trails that I do. All right, so I'm gonna go home for the night, but I'm gonna start on the roof rack first thing in the morning. The reason I gotta cut this thing up is because on the Alucab campers, when you get these things, usually you can fit a roof rack underneath it, and this would have fit, but in my case, I wanted the drop-down table. So when I put the drop-down table on it, or not the drop-down table, it's more of like a slide-in setup. So because of that, I could not fit this roof rack. So that's why companies like Sherpa, which actually I think Sherpa might be one of the only companies that produces a stubby roof rack for a lot of these makes and models. If you have a 3rd gen, 2nd gen, Gladiator, you can get a shortened roof rack, and they offer that for various different camp setups. But this being the 4th gen, and not that many of these trucks have a Alucab on them, a Go Fast on them, stuff like that. It just hasn't been a priority for them at this point. So I do plan on getting a Sherpa in the future, but for now, I wanna have the roof rack on there. The thing is because I'm cutting it, it's only gonna have support from 2 of the feet. These trucks come pre-drilled for 4 mounting points for a roof rack. This is only gonna be using 2. So if you're doing something like this, just know that I'm not gonna put huge cases on this for transport. This might be for max tracks or something for the time being. I just wanna have a little bit of extra space up there, and honestly, it's gonna help ramp some of the wind over the top of the truck. A roof rack just kind of brings the truck together. So there's multiple reasons why I'm wanting to put this thing on. So I'm going to get started on cutting this bad boy up, and I think this is actually gonna be a pretty easy project. Okay, here is the world's first hacked up Toyota roof rack for the Trailhunters. So I basically just had to reuse 2 of the mounts. I had to move those forward. I am using some bolt holes that are for the actual mounting of this thing to the top of the truck, but I'm just putting spacers under it because it's not gonna hold the same kind of load that it normally would in its factory configuration, so I'm not really too worried about it. So it'll bring those rails up a little bit, so I might get a little bit of a whistle, but again, this is a temporary solution, or at least I think it is as of now.
All in all, this was a pretty simple modification to make this thing a small rack, but it did take more time than I anticipated, and it still requires a few adjustments.
Okay, so as you can see, it turned out pretty good. It's pretty sturdy, all in all. Again, I'm not gonna have a bunch of weight up here. My main concern was if it was gonna be too close to the top of the truck where this is getting pushed down by the wind. As far as my case mounts go, those would stick out like that. Obviously, they don't really fit, but if I did put these here, this is backed up all the way to the Alucab, and a camper on a bed does flex quite a bit. I couldn't even put them like that. No, that wouldn't work. So I'm just gonna have to go without, but at least I've got a little bit of space up here. Even if it's firewood or something, I'm just about to hit a campsite and I see some wood on the side of the trail, something like that. So It's better than nothing, and again, it does look pretty good. It's hard to really tell on the Sherpa website, but it looks like their roof rack is gonna come out to about here before it starts to cut down. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get another 4 or 5 inches out of it, which will be perfect for what I'm wanting to do. That still might stick out a little too far. We'll see what happens, but I really wanna make that work. But it looks like that's gonna be a future project at this point. So all in all, I think this is gonna look good. It's gonna be better than just having all of the air just ram right into the Alucab. I will make some adjustments to this because it is pretty close to the cab of the truck, and that kind of freaks me out a little bit. I don't want this to cause any issues. Oh, I know how to raise this actually. All right, I think I just solved my problem. So I'm gonna make a few adjustments on this. It shouldn't take much, but I just wanna get it, I mean, just the slightest amount higher, and then I will be completely confident with it, and it'll be just fine at that point. So I think this is gonna serve me well for now. Hopefully Sherpa comes out with something soon. I would like to see something that was actually engineered and not just some dude that's cutting up an old roof rack. It'd make me feel better. And especially with this situation, I think spacing this is gonna fix that, but still, I would like to see a proper solution. The main purpose of me doing this was to put the mounting company mounts up here. And because that obviously didn't work out in my favor, because this is just, again, a little too short, I've got some footage from last year that I'll go ahead and put in here because it's kind of it's leading up to a point in this video and I couldn't quite make it happen. So I covered those when I was using them for other purposes, and I'll touch base on that. And again, part of why I did this was because I think it'll look better for the Overland Expo, because I'm going to be in a booth that I have a lot of respect for, and that's Tactical Application Vehicles, or TAV. And they are sharing a booth with the mounting company. So if you want to come out and actually check out some of the mounting company stuff, they are in a booth with TAV at the Overland Expo West in Flagstaff. And they have all shapes and sizes of these things. They have Starlink mounts that lock down just the same way, super simple to put up on the roof. So if you want to come check that stuff out, they'll have all of that on display. Because this was kind of an anticlimactic video and I can't put those up here, I'm going to dive into my old footage on this and kind of cover the bases of what the mounting company mounts are. Okay, so I'm out here camping and I have been using these Zargus cases with the mounting company mounts for a month and a half, 2 months now. I just wanted some things that I could get to that was fast, that was dust proof. So every time I wanted like a snack or something, I didn't have to dig through cases in the bed. And I wanted something convenient. My long-term plan for this build is to have these on the roof. But for now, I was gonna use the same mounts either way. So I put them on the side of the rack. And honestly, this has been one of the coolest things that I've done to the truck so far. Even Natalia is like, this is perfect. And this was totally unplanned, but when you open it, it's like a perfect table. I did not plan that. It just happened to work out that way with how these things open up and the angle of the Kuat rack. And the mounting company, in my opinion, is about as good as it gets because it's super easy to take off. You do have to drill some holes into your case, which I was okay with. And then you put your plate on the side and it has this giant titanium locking mechanism. I did a video on this on the channel at one of the Overland Expos several years ago. And as soon as I saw these, I was like, that's what I'm going to use when I get this truck. And that was years ago. So this has been a long-term plan. But the deal is I can put a padlock through that and nobody's gonna take this. That's titanium and stainless steel. And the thing about this is how easy it mounts back up. So when you mount these up, pull up on your latch. Very easy to do. So on both of these, I don't have a lock on them right now because I'm just camping locally. My plan for these on the roof is that this can be clothing on long trips for Natalia and myself, because if you can believe it, Natalia brings a ton of clothes on these trips. And so I'll have one where I can pack extra stuff. She will have one where she can pack extra stuff. And of course, there'll be stuff in the bed as well. And I have a really cool idea for in the cab of the truck, but I have to wait for the aftermarket to catch up because I have a vision of something that I can't quite build yet. These mounting company mounts with the Zargus case, especially because these cases are just so lightweight and high quality. Man, I love this combination. All right, guys, so I'm just trying to piece this truck together. So some of these videos are filmed in a way where I'm doing so many things at the same time, and I'm just trying to put footage together to make these videos cohesive. I'm doing 12-hour days on the weekends just to make stuff happen because there's so many little things. The nets for the windows and stuff like that. There's drilling, there's rivets. These Alucabs are super customizable, but they do take some extra work. The bed is super customizable, but it's aluminum, so I gotta drill holes, I gotta do stuff. And that's what I've been waiting to do for a very long time. So I'm making it happen. So some of these videos will be a little more relatable and useful for some of you, and some of them are just going to be me getting a kick out of building my truck. So I appreciate you guys all tuning in. I've got a bunch more of these videos coming out pretty quick, because actually in the last couple weeks, I've done a bunch more to this thing, and I've got other videos that are on the way. And so again, I will have this truck at Tactical Application Vehicles at the Overland Expo West for 2025. Come on over and check this thing out. It'll be on full display. I will have all this wiring tidied up as good as I can for now. I'm not doing a big interior. I think it's gonna work out perfect, because honestly, I've got as much storage as like a goose gear system usually does in a regular Tacoma, the same size, but with the factory bed. These compartments on this truck bed give me about the same amount of space, so I can keep a lot more room open in the bed, which is awesome. All right, so anyway, I've got a roof rack now. I've got more wiring to do. I'm gonna jump into that, and that will be coming up in a Red Arc installation video soon. And then I'll be doing other videos on the Alucab soon. The Bowen bed video is coming before too long. I just need to get a bunch of stuff done on the weekends. I haven't had time to film anything other than installations. So there's more coming your way. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time.
As always, thank you so much for watching, and click one of the videos in the corner to check out more of our adventure, off-road, and overland related content.